So you use state to manage the data that's internal to your component. And you can use props to pass data from the outside into a component. So what if I had Acrobat as a separate component? Let's just make a new component up here. It'll be a class called Acrobat, capital A. We always name our classes with capital letters. It extends React.component. And it has a render method because they all have render methods. And it's just going to return some JSX. Just going to return an LI. And inside that LI, I want to print a prop. I want to print a prop called name. So this.props.name. That's how I want it to work. So I could use this inside app. Instead of printing an LI here, I could use my new component. So my new component basically gives me a custom element, right? Capital A, Acrobat. It's an empty element. I don't need a closing tag. I just put the slash there. And already you see 3 bullets are there, right? But it expects a prop called name. So let's pass it in. You pass in props just like HTML attributes. Name equals whatever Acrobat is, right? But not inside quotes. Now it just says Acrobat, 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 right? So if it's a variable or some other JavaScript expression, I need curly braces. And I'm passing in a prop, which you access with just this.props dot whatever the prop name is. Yeah.
Is the name attribute similar to what's inside opening and closing tag and you have the text between there? Is that the same as the name attribute?
So you mean like that? Is it similar to or?
So like if you have an LI opening tag and an LI closing tag, and between those two tags,
The contents? No, it's more like an attribute.
okay.
What it's really like is, remember, this is all just short for JavaScript stuff. It's basically like passing an argument into a function. If you think of the component as a function, name is an argument into that function, essentially. Yeah, so you can actually pass in contents, and you do that differently. So you could put something between the opening and closing tags. Cool. So we click the button, the name changes, right? We never said change the H1. We just changed state, and React, having seen a change, changed the page. So 2 things cause it to re-render: changes to state and changes to props. What if we added something? I meant for this to be on that line. Oh, it's just wrapping. Okay. What if we had another button that pushes something new onto the array? So I'll call this method add Acrobat. And I'll make this button on click. We'll call an arrow function so that this gets bound correctly and say this.add Acrobat. And what I wish I could do is just this.state.acrobats.push, right? But we can't do that. What we can do is make a local variable with our array in it and then update state with that array. But the thing is, we want to start from a copy of the array that's already in state. And this does not do that. We've actually been benefiting from this quirk of JavaScript in our previous app without pointing it out. But this does not make a copy of Acrobats and save it to that local variable. That actually points to the original. So if we change that variable, we're changing the original too. That's not a copy. Objects, and that includes arrays in JavaScript, are always passed by reference, not by value. Not true of strings and numbers and other primitives like that, Booleans, but it's true of any object, which includes things like functions and arrays. So this is not making a copy of Acrobats. It is just making a new variable that points to the same thing. You familiar with the terms passing by reference and passing by value from other programming languages? Sort of. Means we're not dealing with a copy, we're dealing with the original. So in Spellbook, we benefited from this because we could take a spell object, push it onto the array, and then make changes to that, marking it as a favorite and so on, and it just updated the array automatically. Remember, we only had to find things in the array if we needed to delete them. The rest of the time, we just made changes to it and it changed in the array automatically. Because we didn't push a copy onto the array, we pushed the very same object. So, copying objects used to be a huge pain in the neck. ES6 made it much easier. So what you can do now is break an array into its individual items using a new operator called the spread operator, which is just 3 dots, the ellipsis. And if we break it out into its individual items inside a new array literal, for example, inside square brackets, we've effectively made a copy of it. So square brackets, ellipsis, some other array, makes a copy of that array. Now I could add more things to the array too if I wanted to. But to just make a copy, that'll totally do it. So now I can say Acrobats push. Kyle. Then update state. This dot set state. Pass in the object with just the keys you want to change. So Acrobats. Pass it the new value, which is what we have in the Acrobats variable. Does it work? Totally does. We just changed the array. JavaScript takes care of updating the UI for us. React takes care of that.
Why did we have to make a copy of the array instead of?
Because we don't want to change state directly.
Why is that?
The short version, it has side effects. So another little interesting piece of ES6 syntax. If you have an object literal, and you have a key that you want to set to a variable that has the same name as that key, you can just shorten it to this. So that is the same as typing the key Acrobats followed by the variable Acrobats. If you have a key and a variable named the same thing as the key, you can just omit that part. And you can still add more things to the object like normal if you wanted to. Same thing. Still work? Yeah, it does. Cool? Yeah.
So as it is right now, if you click that button again, would it add another Kyle?
It would add another Kyle. Yep. Ready? Are you talking about the name of the prop? By any chance, what are you talking about?
Just discussing why it is that.
In set state?
Yeah, just that stuff works.
Yeah. So yeah, it has to be a key that's already there.
Right.
Yeah, we're changing these things. And worth pointing out again that name here refers to a prop that we access with this.props.name. So those two things have to match as well.